Let's say a bird dashes by you and lands in the tree nearby, pausing on the branch for just a moment before it starts to search for insects. Would you be able to identify that bird right away? Or would you need to spend a little bit more time with it before making a guess? Most people need to spend some time with a bird before properly identifying it, but there are those folks who can identify a bird in a split second. And today we're going to learn one of the techniques that they use to make their split second IDs. Hey friends, welcome back to the Mindful Bird Sit. If you're new here, I'm Kristi, and I help people connect more deeply with birds and nature while elevating their skills, boosting their confidence, and helping them to fall more in love with life. If that's something you'd like to do, please subscribe and stick around. You can also check out any number of my online courses, like Identify Any Bird Anywhere or Learning Birdsong. All right, let's get started. First, I just wanted to say, I've been meaning to say this for weeks and I just keep forgetting because I get all into the moment with you all. But I want to thank everyone who's made a contribution to the Bird Sit. It really does make a difference, and I notice when they come in. So I just want to thank you. I haven't personally thanked you for doing that. So for anyone who has, thank you so much. And always know that this is a free experience. So you don't have to do that. But for those of you who do, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you so much. And it really does mean a lot when you do. So thank you. And so today's practice, we'll be focusing on our eyes. So it's great for all of you who might be indoors this morning. You can just get yourself in a position where you can have a nice view. It doesn't have to be like anything profound, but just to have a view of the outside, maybe some place where you're likely to see a bird. The inspiration today is we're going to be focusing on the gestalt of the bird, or some people call it the jizz. I don't like to call it that as much. It's just, I don't know, it just reminds me of other stuff. So we're going to focus on the gestalt, which is basically just like the essence of the bird. And mostly the gestalt that the parts of the birds we're going to be looking at today is like the energetics of the bird that we're looking at. And we're going to be doing that by using owl eyes. So using the practice of looking rather than necessarily hearing. So the ears aren't as important today, but they always play a part. So go ahead and set yourself up in a good position. Just get nice and comfortable wherever you are, making sure you can see something that may be bird related in front of you, even if there's no birds at the moment, maybe just a patch of trees or shrubs, a pond or a lake, whatever your view happens to be. And take a nice deep breath in, letting it go. One more breath in. And then just letting it fall away. Letting go of anything you don't need to hang on to right now with that breath. And when you take your next breath in, just inhale the beauty of this moment, the newness, the freshness of this day. Let that seep into your body, all your cells, and then letting it go, all that you don't need. Your body naturally does this. It lets go of the parts that you don't need, the CO2, and it brings in the fresh, the new oxygen that your body does need. So just being mindful of that process right now. We often don't think about that. We're not conscious of the intention of our body in that way, but let's just pay attention for a moment to the newness that arrives into our body and all that we're just letting go of freely. And every moment, every breath we let go, and every breath we receive and we bring in something new. So let yourself run through a couple more breaths. And as you do so, as you're allowing the new to come in and all that you don't need to go out, just start to notice your own body, your posture, your breath, your heartbeat. Start to take stock of your own body. Noticing your rib cage and your spine, remembering your toes, your fingers. the gift that these are to us, all that they allow us to do. Our knees and our shoulders, sending love there, sending that fresh new breath to all these parts of our body that we often don't pay attention to unless they're aching or aren't working. So let's give them some attention right now, some new breath, and then just let go. If there's anything in any of those joints or those parts of our body that we might be holding on to, maybe there's an injury or some stiffness or soreness, just see if you can let that go with your breath. You don't have to let all of it go. I know sometimes we have reasons that we're holding on to these aches and these pains. But just see if you can let a little bit of it go right now. You don't need to hold on to all of it in this moment. Beautiful. Nice to see you, Anne-Marie. All right. So now we're going to give some attention to our ears, even though our focus today is going to be on our eyes. So first, I want you just to see if you can feel your ears, feel the inner part of your ears. Are you aware of that? What would it take to feel that right now, just with your mind, noticing the sensations inside your ear? Do you feel any vibrations? Maybe subtle movements of air or wind? I'm going to mute myself for a moment so you can be sure that all the sounds are just yours alone. Great. And now, as if we usually work in a spiral around ourselves, but I want you just for fun today to try to, as you're tuning yourself into the sounds that are outside of yourself, first start at the very inner part of your ear, becoming more and more aware of the sounds right at the edge of your ear. And then start to spiral out this direction. So where you're going in a spiral away from your head, like this, and just kind of up and down and around, and starting to send your awareness of your hearing out to the right and to the left. And if doing that in two directions is a bit too challenging, you can do it one direction at a time. I'm going to mute myself again so we can take a moment, each of ourselves individually, to experience this. And just go nice and slow with it. And then noticing as you go along the different sounds that you're picking up, that you're sort of bringing along on the journey with you today. So when you pick up a new sound, take a moment to acknowledge it, and then just keep on that journey, that spiral that's leaving your body, that's experiencing the world outside of you. Noticing how it gets bigger and bigger the further out it gets, and further and further and further away from you. And then slowly start to spiral back towards yourself, taking your time until the sounds that you hear, the ones you're most attuned to, are the ones that are nearest to you. Nice work. And now because we gave our attention to the right and the left, let's just send our attention with our ears out in front of us, exploring the landscape with our ears, with our sense of hearing, and then exploring the landscape behind us as well. Noticing if there's any different or new sounds that come into our awareness. Okay, good work. So we're going to keep our ears tuned in. We're not going to turn them off, but our attention now is going to shift to our eyes. So first, let's practice owl eyes in sort of the closer proximity. So finding something that's anywhere from 10 to, I don't know, 30 feet, 40 feet away from you. Find one point to focus on, and then allowing your vision to expand in all directions. Stretching the furthest reaches of your vision now until your vision becomes blurry and soft. Okay, good. Now we're going to play a little bit with our vision in the distance. So now go ahead and stretch your sense of seeing as far as you can see. So see how far, what's the furthest thing you can see right now? And when you think you've reached the furthest, can you stretch even further? Is there somewhere further in the distance that you can see? This might be a little bit of a mind trick, but just play with it for a moment. How far can you see in the distance? And now let yourself settle into owl eyes, the softened vision, as you're stretching off in the distance. Just noticing inside your body if there's anything different within you when you're stretching your vision further or when it was a bit closer. Is there anything about the quality of your experience that's different? Maybe it's the same. It doesn't have to be different, but just checking in, just seeing if anything's different for you. All right, good work. So now let's bring it back to a closer proximity to yourself, maybe that initial spot that you were looking at. And we'll stay in this zone for a little while. And now we're going to bring it out to the birds. So what I'll invite you to do is when you see a motion that's a bird, I want you just to get a sense of that bird without focusing on the bird at first. To see if you can get a sense of who it is simply by the motion or the gestalt, as we said, that energetic of that bird. Do you get a sense of either the species or the family that the bird may be in simply by the energy, the energetics of the bird as it maybe dashes from one branch to another, as it moves up or down a tree, as it's even perching there? Can you get a sense, the vibe from that bird? And we'll let ourselves stay in this exercise for a good couple of minutes. So I'll let us stay in silence, and then I'll let you know when we're done. Oh, and I will say, if you do see the motion, it's okay to let your vision focus. So see the motion, see if you can get a sense of that. Maybe identify it in your mind, like, I don't know, put a name to it or define it somehow. And then look to see if you can figure out who that bird is. You don't have to. You can just let yourself stay in the energetic play of this if you want to. But you can also attempt to make an ID, but then be sure, just like you do when if a thought comes in, how you bring it back to a mindfulness state. Once you figured out that bird or tested that for a moment, then, sorry, I just wanted to wait for the plane. Then do your best to go back into the owl state of owl eyes or softened vision and just wait for the next bird to show up or the next motion to come. And let yourself play with this for the next couple of minutes. Okay, now we're gonna make sort of a variation on this practice. And instead of staying in owl eyes for this next portion, We're going to actually key in on a bird. So when you see a bird, go ahead and observe it for a little while and just observe it from the perspective of attempting to watch its energetics, watch the way it moves, how it lands on a branch, how it walks on the ground. If you were thinking of, rather than trying to pick out any specific markings on the bird, but really you want to see how this bird moves, how it behaves. Yeah, so just let yourself watch the birds for a little while from the focus of the energetics of that bird. And also just to throw in there, noticing how it's different or unique. Like if you have a couple of birds up on a branch, how is this particular species moving uniquely or differently than the other species? And if you don't have any birds in the trees or shrubs perched, you can look up in the sky and see if any are flying by and just noticing what's unique about their flight that might be different from other birds that you've witnessed before. And if for some reason you don't have any birds, I know some of my Eastern friends, this is kind of a quieter time for the birds this time of day. And so if you don't see any birds moving around, then stay in owl eyes and just allow yourself to practice that for now until you do see motion. And some of you, many of you, may have birds that you're used to seeing every day, and it can be easy to dismiss them. So I'll just encourage you to look for something new, something you may not have noticed about their behavior, their movements, the shape of their body as they land on a branch, whatever it may be. Look for something new. You can also try looking somewhere new. So if you're used to looking, ground level, eye level, try looking up in the trees, looking up in the tippity tops of the trees and letting your eyes go into owl eyes up there and just staying in that position for a little while. Good work, everybody. So take the next moment or two to offer a blessing or gratitude to any of the ones that you connected with this morning, be it birds or trees or people, whatever it may be. All right. Well, thank you everybody for playing today. If you have to head out, then feel free to do so. But if you want to stay for our chat, you know the drill. All right. Anyone who has something to share from our session this morning? Yeah, Anne, please.
Joyful. It's going to be above freezing every day this week. So I'm excited. So I'm watching starlings.
Mm.
Are but you just have to accept it. And I looked at them on the cylinder feeder, and they're like fourth grade boys in the cafeteria. I mean, with a bag of nacho cheese Doritos, because they can't perch on anything like the finch feeder or anything, and they've got 1 foot on the cylinder and 1 foot here, and they're biting, and then they're just squabbling, and it's how they move, and the other one's waiting to see if they're going to get a turn at the bag of Doritos. I don't, but you just have to let them be. So
That's
it's,
awesome. I love that.
yeah.
So like you're the energetic you got from the Starlings is like fourth grade boys near a bag of Doritos. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome. I love that, right? That's really unique. And what stands out too is that um not like some birds aren't communal in that way. They don't have a gang that they hang out with. And so
right.
that's one of the energetics of starlings is that typically, not 100% of the time, but typically you see them in a gang, right? You see them in their gaggle of boys, right? Of girls all together hanging out near their bag of Doritos. So that's rad, Anne.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's sunny. It's I'm there. All the birds are talking. You asked last week how the how we might be hearing different sounds. And just this week after that cold snap, they're talking. They're not singing, they're not like calling, but they're chattering, they're talking more than they were during the cold spell. So I think they all know that we're on the cusp of some change. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I've enjoyed the frenzy out there, and
Yes. That's
hopefully the snow will melt sooner or later and they go back to the farm fields. So
yeah, yeah. Well, beautiful. They are one of the most gorgeous, elegant, just like their colors are, especially when you get to see them up close, like you do at the feeder.
yeah,
Holy moly. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful name for them too. Yeah.
yeah, stars and starlings.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Anne. Who else would like to share? Yeah, Gabrielle, please. Oops, you're muted, Gabrielle. Let's see.
Okay, okay. Um, I'm in Southern California, and we just had a huge change of weather. We had rain for 2 days, and very welcome. And this is the first like sunny but cold day, and I'm all bundled up, sitting on my balcony. And what I noticed was I call it the ordinary, the extraordinary in the ordinary. Like mostly it was just um, oh my gosh, now I can't think, sparrows. And they were so happy that it was sunny and it was, the rain was gone, and their energy was really quick. Like they were just chut, 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 didn't really make a sound. And then I thought, wow, I never noticed them. I just kind of dismissed them as not sexy. And so it was really nice, really watching them for a while. And then these bigger birds, they left, and these bigger birds came in, but they were singing. They were like really just singing, and I don't know what they were, phoebes, or I'm not sure. And but it was just so amazing to notice new things.
Yeah.
And they were much calmer, and they didn't, only with their heads they moved a lot, but other than that they just sat. So anyway, thank you, this was great.
Ah, yeah, well done on that. Again, even those distinctions between like the kind of is it kinetic? Is that the right word? Like that really energetic vibration of a sparrow or like the finch. I guess I was thinking finch when you said that, but maybe it was the sparrow, certain sparrows. Um, versus like the more steady calm of whoever the other bird was, just picking up on those little gestalts. And then when you can identify them and just start to log all that in your brain, all these little bits and pieces will start to play into our ability to make those really quick IDs, in the field of the birds, if that's something that we want to do. Yeah, nice work, Gabrielle.
I also wanted to tell you that I had a dinner with two friends on a couple of days ago when it wasn't raining, but it was about to rain. And we were sitting on a deck on the side of a golf course. And I was so attuned to the birds and even the coyotes who showed up for us. It was really magical. I mean, everything from geese to herons to coyotes. Um, and I have you to thank for that because I was just tuning in. It was really nice. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah, high five. That's awesome. I love that when we can be having, just doing our thing, like having dinner with our friends, but still know that we're connected, still be connected, right? Yeah. That's so beautiful, Gabrielle. Thanks for sharing that. What an inspiration.
Yeah,
Woo.
thank you.
Yeah, sure, sure. Sweet. Who else would like to share? Yeah, Jackie, please. There we go.
There I am. So, lots of excitement. You may hear it in the background. Um, the birds right on my terrace, eating off of the uh, seeds I put out on the railing, uh, they just kind of flew off. And I knew something was happening big. And then I saw this huge bird land in this big elm tree. And then, as you can hear now, all these ravens showed up, and just are mobbing this red-tailed hawk that I kept thinking, I think it actually has something that it's caught. And it started pulling off feathers. And I can't quite see what it is, but I'm thinking it might be a raven that they got, because anyway, whatever they have, they stopped eating, and it just seemed like they were just waiting for the ravens to finally go away. And they did go off for a little while, and they just keep coming back. And now all the smaller birds have gone over there too, and are, way above it, but mobbing it as well. And now it's started to eat some. And then the other birds have come back I have a little water fountain, and they're just back, acting like nothing's happening while this big drama is going on out there. So this is the most birds I've seen all at once in a long time. And it's pretty amazing. It's a beautiful sunny day, a little cold and windy for me to be out there, but it's wow, what excitement.
Yeah, and this is actually a great opportunity if anyone has this happen to them. Again, this practice of looking for the energetics or the gestalt, it's a slightly different behavior all the birds are going to be taking on when they're mobbing something, but each bird, each species has its own way of doing that. And so also looking for that, like looking for how are they mobbing it? And then you can even get as specific as eventually being able to tell what they're mobbing based on their energetics. So when you get to know a bird well enough, let's say you have the ravens near you, that you can tell if it's an owl that they're mobbing versus a red-tailed hawk versus a cat versus whatever, because of their own energetics. And yes, but what a great opportunity to look at the comparison of different birds and how they're behaving and how they're mobbing a particular predator. And just one other question I have for you, and don't have to do this right now, but maybe while you're watching the red tail, you said it might be feathers that it was plucking. Does it look like feathers or fur that's flying? Can you tell if it's
I think that it's feathers. I mean, but it's hard to see. There's just this shrub, brushy stuff in front of it. But a little feather did fly my way, but it was light colored, so that just could have been from a bird close by. So I'm still trying to tell what it might have. And
it's an ongoing mystery. It's like a mystery in the moment, live.
yes, and
Great.
we don't have red tails here that much. Mostly it's Cooper's hawks, and they don't do this at all to the Cooper's hawks. They don't seem to pay much attention to them.
Oh,
But this is
something else. Yeah.
this was a big deal.
Yeah. Well, right on, Jackie. You've got the party at your house today.
Right.
Yeah. Sweet. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for getting me out to be looking at all this.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Likewise. Who else would like to share? Any other morning? Yeah, Julia and then Susie.
I have a question. So if you want to take Susie first, I
Okay.
have a question that's unrelated.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. We'll do Susie and then yours. Perfect. Miss Susie, you're up.
Okay. So I'm in my backyard, and there's three species that I saw during our session here. They're the dark-eyed junco, the downy woodpecker, and of course the bluebirds, eastern bluebirds. And I only saw a couple at a time because they've already had their breakfast and kind of gone away, but some of them still hang around. trying to I'm trying to figure out patterns of their flights when so they're all on the ground. The dark-eyed juncos are on the ground pecking, and I was noticing how they reach out and like the angle of their head when they peck at the ground, which is there's a little bit of snow on the ground still, and then the downy woodpecker. I remember from master's class how they how they fly and pull their wings in, and then kind of go like this. Yeah. Yeah. And then the bluebirds kind of fly straight. And I'm just really enjoying watching them. And that it's like this, my backyard is their playground now. They just, they, it seems like they feel safe here because they can just fly through and go up and around. So it was very peaceful and joyful here this morning.
Yeah, and I love how you had the image of playground. You know, it does feel like there's an element of play that it evoked in you this morning. Yeah, with them. Yeah, and just observing that. Um, Also, well done on noticing the variety, like the different flight patterns, like how the birds fly and the energetics of that, you know, or even how they peck, because that can be also sometimes it's tricky to tell to identify a bird if it's in the shadows. And if you're trying to figure out a bird and it's on the ground, like again, like focusing on how they're feeding, because each bird's going to have a slightly different, unique, each species will have a slightly different, unique approach to feeding, you know, a junco versus, let's say, a white-throated sparrow versus, you know, a finch or something like that. And so, yeah, it's starting to pick up on some of the uniqueness of the juncos that you were watching. I'm loving that you're doing that, Susie. Yeah, right on.
It's hard to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but at least it's like making the attempt. I think that's why we're all here, you know, it's why we show up for this because part of it is just making the attempt at some of these approaches or what's going to start to expand our brain and what's possible within us, you know. Yeah. Yeah, nice work, you. Sweet. Anyone else have a story before we go to Julia's question? A share from this morning? Yeah, Anne-Marie, please.
Um, when we extended our eyes to the farthest point and then brought them back to the first point, it was like everything, even in our eyes, was clearer. Farther, my peripheral was much clearer after I'd stretched it and then brought it back. It still was in our eyes, but it at the focal point closer up. So I was like, oh, I need to do that more often then, so that I can identify who's fluttering around. But that was kind of a neat discovery for me that it seemed much clearer that way. So
Yeah, right on, Emery. I think it's really good to get ourselves practicing looking out farther away. And like this morning, I actually opted to not, I went for a run and I always take my binoculars except for a few times a year. And it was raining this morning. And so I knew the whole time I would just be worried about my binoculars getting wet and I try to cover them and it makes the run, I've done it before, but it just makes for like an awkward run, you know? And I was like, I don't want to do that right now. You know, I pretty much know the birds that are around. And if I don't, this is a great test. You know, I love testing my skills in that way. So I didn't bring it. And what I noticed is sometimes I'll go down to a dock over here. And usually I kind of just look in that sort of like 30, 40 feet out zone. But this morning, because I didn't have my binoculars with me, I was naturally just looking further. I looked all the way across the water, you know, and was like, my eyes were just getting pulled a lot further away than they usually do when I have my binoculars. And I was just wondering, I'm like, why is that, you know? And the thought that came to me was just that when I have my binoculars, I know I can look far away, so I don't until I see like a little motion or something. But without them, my eyes, I was just curious. I was more curious about initially like what's further out. And so I let my vision stretch and expand, and yeah, I noticed how much more I was seeing. I realized how often I don't look far away, and it was great to not have the binoculars. I really just love, I mean, it's a little anxiety producing because it's like, what if I see something and I really want the binoculars? But at the same time, like I always learn something new. There's always a different sort of skill that I can stretch and something I notice about myself when I don't have my crutch, you know? Yeah. Yeah, nice, Anne-Marie. I love that happened for you. I'll have to try that myself also. I was just sort of playing with that today to see what would happen, but that'll be interesting just to, maybe it's just a part of my practice now, like where I go further out and then come back with owl eyes to see what that might do. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it some more and see how it
Yeah.
goes for me.
Yeah,
Thank
let me
you.
know. Let me know. That's great. Right on. High five you. Yeah, Jackie.
I just am so excited to have to share this. There's been a little ruby crown kinglet here for the winter. And I didn't know if it was male or female. And it just took a bath in the little fountain, and it went to this bush, and as it was preening itself, it poofed its little red crown up, and it just is so pretty. It was so exciting. So I just had to share it. It's so fun to have people to share it with. Thank you.
I totally agree. How many people have ever gotten to see either the ruby crown of the ruby crown kinglet or the golden of the golden crown kinglet? Let's see a show of hands. Yeah. It's such a treat to be able to see that. So next time you get, first of all, just getting to see a kinglet is like a score, because they're so fast. So you just have to get your eyes on them first. But then once you do, if you can see that little crest, it's just like, it's like this, oh, wow, I get to see the crest. It's so exciting. That's awesome, Jackie. Thanks for sharing. Sweet. All right. Julia, go for it. What's your question?
Well, I was reading in the Audubon um, magazine about the California condor.
Mm.
Um, the mother had died of bird flu, and there was one egg which they rescued because they thought the father couldn't, keep up with the feeding and all alone. And so one of their concerns was if it could be socialized, and they had it, in a condor rescue thing. And one of the things that they mentioned is that condors feed one at a time on the carcass. That
Oh,
that's
okay.
something that they think is a learned behavior that that is just one at a time. If there's one there, you wait till they're done until it's your turn. And I was wondering, do birds have manners? I mean, that's a huge question. Do certain species of birds have manners like you you first? Or I know there's, you know, it's fun to watch cardinals when they're in the mating season and bring a little present to the female and things. There are things that, and but at the feeders, uh, some are just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
I'm here now, go away.
Yep.
And I was just wondering if do they have a concept of manners like we do?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I love, because this is one of those, what do you call it? Like a not preconceived notion, but it's one of those learned notions, I suppose, because we've had science to tell us these things, and I haven't considered another possibility, but in like my science mind, I'd say, oh, it's like there's a reason it's called the pecking order. You know what I mean? Because literally there's a pecking order. It's like the hierarchy with a wolf. I used to work with wolves, and there's definitely the hierarchy when there's a kill, when they're feeding. It's like the alpha goes in and gets to eat, and maybe his partner or her partner gets to eat with them, and maybe one of their young or something. And then when they're done, the other ones will come in, and it's like there's that pecking order, the hierarchy of like who gets to eat based on dominance. And so that's sort of the mindset I've had with the birds, and I've observed that like I guess I've always assumed it's because this one's more dominant and it's going to eat before the others. I haven't considered the idea of manners before, and so why not? Why not consider that, you know? I think that's a really interesting question, and I've never asked myself that before, so I will now. Yeah. Anyone
So
else
that
have thoughts about that? Yeah, Anne, what's your thought, Anne?
Well, and then I come up with the difference. Is it manners or protocol? Different words. I guess the definition of manners in my mind, I taught elementary school, was it's the way that we act to make other people comfortable around us. Are they trying to make that other person who's eating comfortable, or is this protocol just like you say in the wild, the pecking order type of thing? I can't imagine that if a bird was hungry, manners would have much to do with it. It would have to do with whether they want to be eaten, whether they want to eat or be eaten, kind of thing.
Yeah, and the other thing that comes to my mind is also, I think I didn't come from, I guess I sort of did, but you think of like, I guess I think matriarchal societies, like a lot of Hispanic folks or the native folks that I've spent some time with, there's this respect for their elders, like respect for the matriarch of the family, you know, and if she says something, everyone does it, whether they want to or not. You know, they follow what the matriarch says. And then there's sort of like, again, that pecking order down the line of like, there's the matriarch and then maybe the older sister and then the younger sister, whatever. Um, and some of it might be fear, but some of it may also be respect, you know, respecting that one who's older than you or maybe stronger than you or whatever than you. But I wonder if like the respect comes into some of it, as well as that, you know, there again, I love when we can expand ourselves beyond just like what
Right.
we've been taught, you know, of like, is it just brawn, you know? Is it only because this one's stronger and they're gonna get more dominant and get to eat more? Is that the only reason? So I love that you brought that up, Julia. Was there something else you wanted to add to that?
I was just, they were worried about the socialization. And this young condor was released and did learn how to fit in with the others. It
Mhm.
was a great success story, I guess.
That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't read that story. I love that. I think whenever they can have an animal near an adult, like older ones than them, they are able to learn from them. So hopefully they were. I think sometimes they want to put them with just a bunch of young ones, you know. But I learning from my teacher Martine, he was always really brought up the point of even on a farm, when you have farm animals, it's really important to have the young ones next to older ones, and even like the elders, because the elders will teach, they will actually teach the younger ones how to behave, like how to be sort of a good cow or a bad cow, or you know, and you know, and it's important not just to have all the young ones together and all the old ones together, that they really need to have that the lessons from those that are older than them. Yeah. That's cool, Julia. Do you know, Julia, where they were, was it just put with a bunch of younger condors or was it with older ones?
It was with the flock or the group
Okay.
that the parents were from.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, that's great, you know. And I mean, a lot of the condors were raised in captivity. That's how they got back to where they are now. So there's sort of hope in that, I suppose. Yeah. It's always ideal to have it be the parents themselves, but huh. Wow. Well, good job, little condor. Yeah, or big condor. Yep, that's rad. All right. Well, thanks everybody for playing along and joining, and we'll see you next week. I think that's the only announcement I have. And again, thank you everybody for your contributions to the bird sit. Have a beautiful rest of your week, and keep playing with this tool that we learned today. All right, Jackie, have fun with your mystery. See you everybody.